Mrs. Treanor, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can.
Okay.
Hey, so I'm Sam Vincent. Thank you so much for doing this. We're really looking forward to it. We've
Um,
got about 60 to 70 kids here to kind of hear your story and ask you questions if that works for you.
yeah, no problem.
Okay. If you maybe for a minute or so could kind of talk about your career a little bit, and then we're going to have a volleyball player ask the first question, and then there'll be all kinds of students who are going to ask you different things.
Yeah, no worries. Well, hi everybody, and thank you for letting me join you. I know it's been a work in progress, right? Trying to get this together. Um, so when I started, I actually played many different sports, and hopefully all of you do too. I'm a big advocate for everyone playing sports, but I know it's getting harder now as opposed to when I was younger. The avenue for playing so many was great. So I was a soccer player. I played volleyball. I did track and field, played some tennis, swam, but in and I danced. So if there's any dancers in your class, I danced until I was 13. I even baton twirled. So if you have a band member or majorette in there, then I baton twirled as well. Uh, but in high school, I focused on soccer, volleyball, and track. So I was a three sport athlete. I always played up. So the volleyball players in your class or the one that's going to ask the question, when I started playing volleyball, I had two parents that were both athletes, one a tennis player who ended up meeting my dad and starting volleyball, but then my dad was a 68 Olympian. So I was always around the sport of beach volleyball because I grew up on the beach of Santa Monica. If you don't know where that is, it's one of the famous beaches. It has a big roller coaster on there, and the Olympics actually will be the beach volleyball venue will be placed over there at the next Olympics. But I grew up in Santa Monica, and being around the beach environment, I grew up around a lot of the great players. So for anybody playing football, baseball, it'd be like you guys growing up around Joe DiMaggio, being in that area where you see all the greats and you never, your idols, and you end up playing with them years later, actually. But so I started playing at a very early level or early age. I was 8 when I started my first, or I entered my first tournament with my dad when I was 8 years old. But I always played up an age group. So now at the club level, for those that don't know, there's like a team at every age level. But when I started playing at 10 years old, when I was able to play club, I had to play with 14s because there was only three divisions. It was a 14 and under, a 16 and under, and an 18 and under division. So I always played up. I got my nose rubbed in it, but ultimately it made me better. So go on, fast forward. I played on junior national teams for indoor volleyball. I was a state runner up in high jump, played multi sports until I signed the dotted line to go to Long Beach State. Now, I'm going to name some colleges. I was a top recruit out of high school as an outside hitter. I'm only 5'8.5". Most hitters now are 6 foot plus. So I was very short, but back then the players were relatively shorter than they are now. But I was a top recruit out of high school, and I turned down Stanford and Penn State's and University of Florida's and pretty much all the top schools that have those flashing lights to go to Long Beach State because at that time, or Cal State Long Beach, because at that time, Cal State Long Beach was a top program. But I knew if I wanted to continue at a higher level internationally or possibly Olympics indoor, I would have to make a position change. And they had the best coaches at the time there for the position that I wanted to learn, which was setting. So I chose between just feeling like it was home when I went on my recruiting trip there and knowing that it was a place that I wanted to continue playing at if I couldn't. Between that and then the coaching staff, I chose Cal State Long Beach. We ended up uh, kind of making it further in the NC2A tournament every year, finally being the first team to go undefeated with the NC2A championship my senior year in 1998. In between my time, though, at Long Beach State, I was playing on the indoor national team. So I never had a summer off since eighth grade. So joined the senior national team after college, got burnt out there. Beach got introduced in 1996, which was my sophomore year in high school. But I was aiming at going for the 2000 Olympics indoor and making money overseas indoor. But with politics and just getting burnt out, I left the game, made a jump to the beach, and made my first run with Holly McPeak for the 2000 Olympics. So I participated in 4 Olympics. So I was in the 2000 Olympics with Holly, then, excuse me, matched up with Carrie for 04, 08, and 12, and have 3 golds out of the 4. So, and now I'm here. I'm a mom. I yell at old people now as a hobby because I do some I teach exercise classes. So now I get to yell at older people to get moving. I have a foundation. I got my master's degree before I left for London for the last Olympics. And I just go around and do talk.
All right. Perfect.
So that's
Well,
kind of it.
yeah. Well, I might ask a few questions in between, but we're going to let the kids take over and they kind of brainstormed a lot of different stuff. So you'll meet a lot of different people here. And again,
No
we
problem.
appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
All right. So Kennedy, a junior volleyball player, is going to ask you the first question here.
Hi, Mrs. Treanor. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Is
I'm
that first
good.
off, I think the parted hair is like the new hairstyle because that's all my kids want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the world? I go straight back. But anyways, that's besides the point. So
So I'm a volleyball player here at PHS, so I was just wondering what the transition like for you was going from indoor to beach volleyball.
so if you have a chance, I say every off season go and play beach because I don't know what position are you.
I'm a middle.
So a middle. Nowadays, so our middles when I played, because we didn't have liberos, which if anybody in your class knows it's like a specialty position, we didn't have liberos. So every positional player had to learn everything. So middles had to learn how to set, they had to pass, they had to play defense. And nowadays you're not finding that. We're beach. You can't hide. You have to do
Yeah.
everything. So for you, if you're gonna make that transition, don't think of it as a completely different game. It's the same skill sets. You just have to put the ball in a different spot. So we still learn to pass the same indoor. We set, maybe hold on to the ball a little longer, but it's all, I would say the biggest thing is the timing because non-solid surface,
Mhm.
the timing of your jump. But then the skills are the same. It's just the timing of how you do it.
All right. Thank you
So
so much.
you're welcome.
Anybody? Go next.
Hi, Mrs. Trainer. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So I'm also a junior here at PHS who plays volleyball. And my question was, does travel ever have certain effects on your body throughout how you play?
So traveling is something you have to get used to, and especially as you get to a different level, like the professional level, going overseas, the foods are different.
Yeah.
So getting adjusted to that. Some of the trips we'd take our own food because you just didn't know what was going to be available. But as far as travel, staying hydrated is a key. So making sure that you're well hydrated and fighting. I know for jet lag, some of the stops, fighting that sleep you want to take right when you land. You got to kind of jump into the time zone as quickly as possible. And it's tough, but just getting your rest. When Carrie and I played, we were trains, planes, and automobiles. And what I mean by that was, we're starting out, we're buying our own tickets, and you're going the cheapest route. Once we got status, we were able to get business class. So a lot of our flying, we would have to upgrade to get that rest because we were going from one tournament to the next tournament. And believe me, it's hard. Once you go to the front of the plane, if you've ever been to the front of the plane, it's very hard to go in the back again. It's like, no. Um, so a lot of the athletes try to get as much leg room and as much comfort as possible. And that's just a sacrifice. That's an expense that you have to put up front, but at the end of the day, it pays off. But definitely hydration and getting on that time zone, as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. I'll ask one. Wait. All right. While the next person is walking up here, can you kind of describe what's it like to win an Olympic gold medal, to hear the national anthem played, of kind of what's that moment like whenever you win an Olympic gold medal?
So it's funny, I get this question a lot and it's hard. I can only describe it or explain it to you, but you guys ultimately won't get the true feeling unless you've been there. But it makes you stand up a little prouder, you know, standing behind my favorite part of any Olympic Games has been marching behind the flag in opening ceremonies because you're representing your country, you're representing your family, your sport. There's a lot that goes with it. And to stand behind the flag of the United States is one of the highest honors I think that you can have. But winning that gold, you know, it's something I get goosebumps just talking about it because it's something no one can take from me. You know, even if I lose the medals or they get stolen or lost, no one can take that memory from me. And every time, no matter what stadium I'm at, the national anthem plays, and I get those movies back in my head of standing on the podium and staring up at the flag and just remembering all the hard work that went into it. And it took what 45 minutes or an hour for that whole thing to come to fruition, you know? So there's nothing greater. And I hope you all aspire and are proud of, you know, what you're able to do, but stand proud behind the flag.
All right. All right. We got a couple more kids who made their way up here.
Oh, how's your day going?
It's good. I haven't picked up the kids yet, but boy, is it going to get crazy.
The question I have for you was, how difficult was it for you to retire?
um, it's funny. So my mom, she had her master's degree in adaptive PE, and there weren't too many family members that had continuing education. And it was a goal of mine to get my master's degree. So I always had a plan B. So I think it's important that no matter what you're doing, it's okay to have more than one passion and have two different routes available. And so when I give talks to young kids, I always say, have a plan B, because then it relieves that stress of if plan A fails, right? What am I going to do now? And so I always had the passion to coach and um, for coaching. So I got my master's in athletic administration and coaching. And I did that for a little bit. But because that was my plan B, I don't feel like I ever retired because I'm still in the gym 3 nights a week. I'm still helping young kids, but it allowed me, because I had that other avenue to fall back on, it made that transition easier instead of athletes falling out of their sport and then saying, what now? Right? Starting from zero. So I think it's okay. Like I said, always kind of have a plan B or something on the side that you still enjoy, that in the back of your mind, if sports didn't pan out or something happened or injury happened, that you'd still be okay.
All right, thank you.
So you're welcome.
Hello, Ms. Treanor.
Hello.
My question is, out of the 3 gold medals you won, the 04, 08, and 2012, which one means the most to you?
Oh man, I get this all the time too. And it's a hard one because
Yeah.
they were all different journeys. Okay.
Mhm.
So the first one, Carrie and I were so young and naive. We were the favorites going in, and no one can ever take away. And being the first one in our sport, whether indoor or beach, to win an Olympic gold medal for the women's side, that's a fantastic feat. But I still to this day haven't even enjoyed them. Like I haven't realized kind of what we did. I'm starting to a little bit, but the first one was I had torn my abs before. So there was that question from Carrie's side, would I be ready or not? So for 6 weeks before the Olympics, I didn't train with her. She was playing tournaments with somebody else. And so I showed up at the Olympics ready to go. But the first one, so young, naive, just kind of, we expected to win. It was like, okay, now what? The second Olympics, we had lost to that Chinese team before. So it's very hard when you lose to a team and you see them again, especially on their home turf. That's always in the back of your mind. And so being able to repeat with that loss in mind, and Carrie was pregnant and all that. So it was like a different journey on its own. And I thought it would be my last one. So I actually went in thinking Beijing would be my last one. And then London was like completely different. Now we're older. So now our physical ability, Carrie will argue this with me, but whatever. Our physical ability in my mind wasn't the same, but our mental ability, because we had been there before, kind of overcame that. we won one tournament that year. Nobody saw us on the podium, and we had not played with each other for 2 years. So then it was like kind of like a reinventing ourselves, come back, kind of the underdogs, and we're able to do it. So they each hold a different journey, which I think is special. So they're all very special to me. Definitely the first one though, to put women's volleyball on the map, I felt that kind of sparked this whole beach volleyball phenomenon with the young girls. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mrs. Trainor.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, what's your mindset like and what are you thinking in the moments before you play an Olympic game?
So I don't know how many of you use sports psychologists, but I've never really used a sports psychologist. So it's interesting to me because I try to keep everything on the same playing field. So the Olympics to me, even though it was on a bigger stage, it's a tournament, just like every other tournament. You have to beat everybody going in. So the mentality never changed. My routine never changed. We actually didn't even stay in the village. They have the athletes stay in a village, but Carrie and I always stayed outside so we had our own comfort.
Yeah.
But I'd wake up at the same time, eat the same meals, listen to the same music before. And I think because once you, as an athlete, find that routine that gets you in that prime zone or that focus, and you'll know it because if any of you have ever played and it's kind of like the outside's fuzzy, but everything on the inside is clear but slower, you found that optimal kind of focus. You try to maintain that and you find the things around you, like I said, the foods, the music that you play. So start taking notes because it's very important to know what routine as you go along works for you and kind of maintain that.
Yeah. Thank
So.
you.
And you know what? At the end of the day, too, a loss is sorry.
No, it's okay.
You can't go in. You go in to do the best that you can. You go in prepared. You train for it. You prepare the best you can. At the end of the day, sports is sports. You're gonna have one winner, one person that falls short, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello again.
Hello.
So we've learned that you're a coach. Is that correct after you retired?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering as a coach, I'm someone who's trying to get into college volleyball when I'm older after high school. So I'm just wondering what you look for as a coach when you're trying to recruit people for your team.
So it's tough. I think if I like the way I coach, some of the athletes, whew, I don't know what it is. We got to hold you kids accountable. So I think a coach that holds you accountable, coaches are meant to push you, and some athletes can't take that. And there's a right way to push and a wrong way to push. But our goal as a coach is to pull something out of you that you don't see. And there's a right way to do that because our job is to get you to that next level. So I think a coach that communicates clearly, cares about the players, has a plan for them beyond, right? Cares about them for beyond. It's not about you just working for me right now and I'm going to run you into the ground and that's the way it's going to be. There has to be a general care of progression and what am I setting them up for later, But I think just keeping an open mind, especially as you're learning, taking in techniques from everyone and keeping a journal of what you like, what works for you, what coaching styles you like, don't like.
Yeah.
So
as a player, what did you do to put yourself out there?
So it's funny, we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
So even in the Olympics, it's like I wish my Instagram was up higher than it is, but it was like MySpace when I was playing in the Olympics, and then it went to Facebook. So I have a high following Facebook, and then it like went to Twitter and then Instagram, and I'm like, how do these people have
it's
all
always changing.
So but we didn't have the platforms you did. So for us, I don't even know if colleges, I don't think they do in-home visits anymore. And that's where the college coaches would come into your home. So college coaches would come and they'd sit with your family and they'd talk to you about the school. And then you have your 5 visits. I think you still have your 5 officials you can take. I only
Mhm.
took one because I'd seen a lot of the schools from playing. But our coaches would come to our high school games, so high school was important, whereas club now
Yeah.
probably overtook is more important now. And you guys have video, so a lot of the coaches now aren't seeing some of the players except through your videos you put together.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things, especially now players getting help, would probably find a volleyball recruiter. There are people out there that can
Mhm.
help you put videos together,
Mhm.
relieve that. It will be a cost, but in the end, it'll probably save you and your parents the headache of trying to cut and splice and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I think writing letters and sending videos out to as many people, you have to be persistent. If you get a no, you do it again. You keep
Mhm.
sending it to them until they say,
Yeah.
please don't send me anymore, you know? But
Yeah.
you have to be persistent, probably going to their camps so they can take a look at you,
Mhm.
you know, get on their board.
Yeah.
But when you guys are choosing colleges, think about what you want to do. Some colleges will have the avenues you want, some won't have the degrees.
Mhm.
So mark those off. If you're not a cold weather person, don't even waste the coaches' times in the Northeast. You know, if you don't
Mhm.
want snow, don't even bother in the Northeast. Figure out where you would want to go. One of the best things, the Cal coach, who his dad was my dad's Olympic coach, said,
Yeah.
play, you want to go to a school where if something happened, you would still see yourself finishing your education there.
Yeah.
I am not a big fan of NIL, I will be honest,
Mhm.
and the transfer portal. I
Okay.
think that messes up because
Mhm.
it doesn't keep people to the standards. They signed a contract and you made a commitment to the school.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, but find a place. There's awesome D2 schools out there that could beat
Mhm.
up on D1 schools and
Yeah.
D3s, so keep your options open. If maybe you need a little more time, there's nothing wrong with going to a 2 year,
Mhm.
getting your GEs, and then moving on. So it just, you kind of have to lay out a roadmap for
Uh-huh.
yourself. But I would send out letters, send them out everywhere.
Yeah. I know my coach is
Yeah.
a big help on helping me do that. And then I have like my travel coaches and stuff. So
Yep,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
So you won 3 gold with your partner, Carrie Walsh. How important do you think is it between your partner and volleyball, like your chemistry?
It's funny because at the same time it's friendship, it is a business as well, right? We're trying to brand ourselves, make the most money we can. Carrie and I, we're friends, but it is very business-like too. So we don't spend 24 hours together. I think it's healthy to have your own hobbies, different from your partner, and we have our own lives. We have our own trainers, and I think that's why we were able to stay together as long as we did, is because we honored the time away. It's like, okay, yeah, we have different personalities. We're not the same, but then we respected each other, on the court. So, and it's just like work. You respect everybody's differences, but it's okay if that one person doesn't want to go to a party. If there's a party, it's like, don't pressure them to go to a party. They don't want to go. They don't want to go. That doesn't make them a bad person. So you just have to respect each individual as they are. And then when you're in your work environment or on the court, collectively, you're there for one common goal, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have more kids coming up. I know you kind of talked about the different gold medals. You were in Sydney, Athens, Beijing, and London. Of those 4 cities in the Olympic Games they hosted, do you have any moments that really stood out, or a favorite city that you were in?
It's funny because Athens was after 9/11, so the lockdown was pretty substantial. So we stayed actually on the Queen Mary 2 with the NBA players, and we had divers outside. So Athens, I didn't get to venture around very much, but I had been to that city in the past. Um, and this happens with a lot of tournaments because Carrie and I did so well. It's hard to take the blinders off and go enjoy because we're in the finals the next day, or we don't have the luxury that some of the teams that are out to go around. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of places I want to take my family to and go visit later on. But Athens, we were on pretty secure, pretty tight security.
Yeah.
So didn't get to do much. Beijing was great. I thought it was great for our families, and we stayed at a hotel by the site. So there I got to go to the Great Wall and it was more open. I got to wander around, but keeping it in control. So I still had, some life in me when I was playing. But Beijing was neat because I had a lot of family there. My dad was the only one to go to Athens. And then London was fantastic because everybody spoke English. So it was easy for my family to get around. And there, I was able to see a little more. The For like an insider into the Olympics, and it's changed throughout the years. I think with after Rio, some sponsors, I don't want to say pulled out, but kind of understood that they could save money by not doing these. They call them houses. So every Olympics, there's always like a USA house. Nike would have their own house. Your sponsors would have like their own homes, like that the families could go to and get meals, meet up with the athletes, and that's kind of faded over the years. So a big one in Beijing, I got would be the USA house and Nike house. So I'd get to see my family a lot. And
Oh,
then same with London. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but as far as sightseeing, I would like to go back.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We got a couple kids coming here.
Hi again, Miss Trainer.
Hello.
I
And
was gonna
I haven't picked them up yet, so I'm still okay.
I was gonna ask, how difficult was it to play in the rain?
You prepare for everything, right? As an athlete, you prepare for everything. Now when I go play, because I still go play on Thursdays, if it's raining, I don't need to be in the rain. High
Yeah.
winds, I don't need to be in the wind anymore. Uh, but when you're an athlete, you have to play in every condition so that you're used to it. The only thing that gets well, there'd be a couple stops where it was hard to play in the rain. So Norway, we had a stop in Norway and it'd be raining there and you wouldn't have dry clothes for the next match. So it's like freezing cold rain. You go into the player area, everybody's stuff is hanging all over like scaffolding, trying to get it dry, and then having to put on freezing cold, the leggings again in the arms. So that wasn't fun. The ball gets heavier. So as more rain falls, they usually try to keep extra balls on the court, but the ball will absorb the water, so it gets a little heavier. Um, and then just against other teams, if you have a ball to put in the air, you want to put it high to make them look up into the rain. So there's some like little key factors there, but like I said, you have to prepare for anything. It's kind of fun. When things aren't normal, it's kind of fun,
Yeah.
except for when it's cold. Yes.
All right. Thank you again.
No.
Hi, Mrs. Trainer.
Hello.
What was your biggest obstacle throughout your career?
Biggest obstacle, always injuries. So I've had a couple injuries. I tore my PCL in my knee when I was a sophomore in high school and I played with it. And then I finally got it repaired with a cadaver's Achilles tendon in 2001. And now I finally have a total knee. So I'm like 6 years into a total knee replacement. So most people didn't know, but I had that my whole playing career, the Achilles tendon. So I had a PCL there. And then coming back from the Achilles injury. So I ruptured my Achilles before the 2012 games and learning to walk again. And my 80% was really my 100%. But your body is so strong, your mind's so strong, it learns to adapt.
Yeah.
I would say the darkest hole I've been in had nothing to do with injuries, but when my mom passed away. So my mom got to see me only compete in one Olympics in Sydney, and then she passed away. And going through that, she was an integral part of my career. So there's always that missing piece.
Yeah. I'm sorry
So
about that.
that would, oh, it's okay. she got some balls over like that weren't going to make it over the net. She
Yeah.
like got them over. But no, so I mean, it doesn't have to be an injury to be an obstacle, and you all know that. It could be something else, but that's why I think sports is so, especially on my mom's side, sports was so fun. It was like a relief for me to go and play.
Yeah.
So it took my mind off of it. Now, the injuries, because I'm a competitor, and most of you don't look at it as oh, why me? Right? And there's always a plan B, but why me? I look at okay, like it's a training hurdle for me. So it's like, okay, I want to get back on the court. What do I have to do to get back there? So I use it as like a mental training hurdle. Like I'm going to get back out there. I'm going to show people.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, I'm Craig.
Hello.
So when playing like volleyball, have you ever like stepped on like a seashell or anything? Or like has like sand ever been like super hot on your feet?
All the time. I think I'm the only one that wears sand socks. So we have sand socks. Nobody thinks they're cool. Everybody would rather lose their toenails, I guess. But yeah, we lose our toenails because you get blisters under your toes. Seashells, and I've stepped on a bee. Sometimes, we'd practice at places where people love to let their dogs roam around free. So there's other obstacles there as well,
Yeah, I get that.
landmines. So, but
Oh, my bad.
no, you're good. You're good.
I'm here. Sorry.
No, you're good. But that's
All right.
it. Nothing. Yep. Cold
All right.
feet when the sand's cold. So,
Got it. Thank
all
you.
right.
Hi, I'm back again. So this is like a personal question, but like, what do you think the hardest position in volleyball is?
The hardest position. Well, nobody ever wants to be a setter. And the setter to me is the brains behind the operation. It's the quarterback. Nobody wants to be the setter because there is no, right? You're putting the ball up for everybody else. Everybody always sees the finishing play,
Mhm.
right? But you have to chase down those bad passes. You've got to make them turn into something nice. And you have to know where each position on your court is. So if people are out of rotation, you got to be able to kind of tell people where to go. But you also have to know what the other side's doing because your goal is to get one-on-one. So I like that. So I would say setting is probably the hardest skill and hardest position on the court.
Mhm.
And you're always involved and you're like the glue of the team. But everybody sees the big hitter.
Yeah,
So
makes sense. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm Miss Treanor.
Hello.
How quickly did you transition from hardwood to sand when you made the transition from regular volleyball to beach volleyball?
So I always played. So growing up, I've just always played beach in the off season and just gone down and played.
Yeah.
So I left the national team in 1999, and the following week, it was like November. The following week, I started on the beach. So I didn't have much transition time. The first tournament was like late November. So I had no choice.
Yep.
So there was no choice to make it was like go in, and that's one of the reasons why I split up with Holly after 2000 was because we couldn't get less than a third in any tournament. So most teams have 2 years to qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Based off points. When Holly and I joined, we had 8 tournaments. So we couldn't get less than a third. So I felt like my head was underwater. So I had to make that transition pretty fast. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hi. So
Hello.
my question is, when you were like throughout your career, did you ever have any experiences of just like kind of bad coaching, and how did that like impact your career?
I think there's always bad coaching. You're always going to get some bad coaching along the way. And I talked about earlier keeping an open mind, right? And you have to respect your coach at that time. So even though you may not agree with your coach, what the philosophy is, you have to just keep an open mind. You can't butt heads. And there might be little tidbits that these coaches that aren't very good, maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe they're just going off of what they know. So, but there are some aspects that you can gain from everybody, whether it's dependability. I'm looking at dependability behind it, or like
Mhm.
commitment or maybe energy. So there's always something you can get from each of your coaches, but you will face those bad coaches. My dad would always tell me, okay, go along and practice, but then when it comes to game time, do your thing, do your thing. So if there's a technique that they were trying to get me to do that didn't work for me or I wasn't used to, I would do it in practice. And then when it came to game time, I was like, that's out the window. It's about playing, right?
Okay, thank you.
So just shake your head and okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm back. So my question for you is, we talk a lot about how sports have changed and how they're going to continue to change. So how do you think volleyball has changed since you've played?
Oh, since I played. So I actually went to, I think you guys were studying Title IX, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what president was involved with that?
Richard Nixon.
Who was that answered? I hope it wasn't the teacher.
No, I knew that from my top of my head.
Okay, so he got it implemented. Now I did a research project on my grandmother when I was in elementary school, and it's funny. And if you guys still have grandparents alive, they're going to be obviously younger than my grandparents. I don't have any alive anymore, but back in that time, it was dangerous for women to play sports. It was dangerous for them to run. They weren't allowed to play, And then here I am, I'm playing volleyball. She's like, "Oh, Misty, you're
Yeah.
gonna beat your body up." Like she didn't understand. And
Yeah.
my mom's side was all tennis, so that was more of a ladies' sport.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was soccer and volleyball, and I'm like
Yeah.
more the aggressive sports. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand. I had to play with boys on a boys' soccer team when I was younger. Now I coach my daughters, and it's like all girls.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
from when I grew up playing with the boys, I mean, you see how many numbers there are now
Mm-hmm.
in women's sports.
Yeah.
The avenues, hockey. You asked me years ago, growing up, if I ever saw a
Mhm.
female hockey player. No, because it was a male dominated sport. Now
Yeah.
you have female hockey,
Mhm.
So sports is changing. It's still going to continue to grow. And
Uh-huh.
as more women take the jump into these alternative sports or different
Mm-hmm.
sports that they were told not to, my only problem is I don't like the NIL and that transfer
Yeah.
portal,
We've
you
talked
know?
about that a little bit in our class too.
So it's just, I feel there's no loyalty anymore. And that starts to stem down into the club. If you play club, it's like
Yeah.
before when there were very little clubs, it was like, okay, I'm going to go to this club because the coaching, not
Yeah.
about what they're wearing. And
Mm-hmm.
now some people go to clubs because what uniform are you wearing? Who are you sponsored by? So it's
Yeah.
become a more me, as opposed to what am I learning? And
Yeah.
so that's where I think the transfer portal has kind of started to go down
Yeah.
into the system, which I
Mm-hmm.
don't like because it's about commitment. You commit to a team,
Yeah.
you stay with a
Mm-hmm.
team, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And but I think sports especially on the women's side, is going to continue to grow. Now, I don't like seeing boys sports or men's sports taken out of college either. I want to
Yeah.
see that. I want to see all sports grow, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
But definitely the women now are in the light with the men where it used to be just men.
Yeah.
And then especially on the beach volleyball side, Carrie and I think with winning the first games, we became the highlighted finals. Every AVP. So it
Mhm.
used to be AVP male dominated.
Uh,
Women were kind of here. We were always the second final, not on TV. And then once we
Yeah.
won, it was like women kind of took over
Yeah.
and we were kind of leading the charge.
Yeah. So like,
So
how do you feel that you kind of made like a change, like you grew beach volleyball a little bit? Because I know so many people look up to you.
I think just with the way we kept our heads down and won,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was just putting that on the map with Athens
Uh-huh.
that really hit that spot and
Mm-hmm.
then continuing to kind of build upon it, making ourselves available. Like I would do clinics and stuff, but kind of not being afraid to hold that on our shoulders, right? That we're
Yeah.
carrying, I don't want to say carrying the sport, but carrying the sport
Yeah.
at that time. you can't be afraid to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Trainer.
Hello.
So I'm wondering what inspired you to choose volleyball over, like you said, you played track, you played soccer, you swam. What inspired you to choose volleyball over all those separate sports?
Oh, it was a hard one. If I could play soccer, I still would play soccer. So that's why now I yell at little 6-year-old kids on my girls' teams. I'm like the mean coach that for the 6-year-olds. You know that show is it Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell? I'm like Will Ferrell in the soccer. Um, I wanted to play multi-sports in college. Soccer at the time when I went to Long Beach, it was a club sport, but it was the same time as volleyball. So that kind of nixed that. And then I did track my freshman year in college. And then it just got to be a little too much for me to do both. And I just had more passion for volleyball. So I didn't know what was going to happen. I just had more passion for volleyball. But I still, if I didn't have this knee, I'd probably be in an adult league soccer. But now I just beat up on 6-year-olds on the soccer field.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I know you have to go and get your kids. We can't thank you enough. I have one last question. Years ago, when we started doing this, a student said we should always ask each person for a piece or two of life advice. If you were to give one or two pieces of advice to high school kids, what would that be?
Well, nowadays I would say watch what you put out there. We didn't have to worry about it now, but watch what you put out there because as high school athletes, as high school kids, everybody's looking up. You know that you have kids looking up to you. Eyes are on you. You're representing your school. And two, you never know. That could be part of the recruiting process too. What they see, they may turn you down just for a post you made or something, So be careful just with the social media aspect in a whole. Be strong. It's okay to be independent. Okay. Don't be a follower, be a leader. But what I always grew up with was, and this can go for everyday situations, is my dad, on a day I wouldn't want to clean my room when I was little, he'd be like, there's somebody in a hospital bed, somebody out there that doesn't have another tomorrow. They're terminally ill or whatever, that would love to switch places with you and find the biggest joy in just cleaning the room because they're out of the hospital. So you have to wake up and appreciate that you have today to do something because you're not guaranteed a tomorrow. And there's somebody else, other side of the world, next door, that would love, maybe is going through something that would love to switch places with you for one moment in time to be able to do what you're doing. So when you have a chance to do something, you do it for somebody else.
Well, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. I know it's made a big impact on all these kids. So just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, no problem. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. All right. Thanks.
And have a good break.
All right. See ya.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.